Right on.
Well, hey, I want to
Yeah.
thank you first off for taking time out of your day to meet with me. Welcome to the Distorted Dialogue podcast.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Yeah,
Awesome.
love the Tortured Saint shirt, by the way. That's dope.
Thanks, man. I
Yeah.
like them. They're a great band.
Yeah. Yeah, right on.
So, what got you into being a music lawyer?
Yeah, so I guess yeah, let me give you the whole story here.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I started out playing in bands myself. I played bass and sang. I was in some punk bands, a couple metal bands, like played around, and then you know, life happens and suddenly I stopped playing, and I went to school, then went to law school. While I was in law school, I met this rapper who needed a manager, and I was like, well, I could probably do that. Like, I know about the music industry. And then I started managing this rapper, then I started managing producers, and then I started managing bands, and then next thing I know, like, I have a management company, and I'm just doing this whole management thing while I'm in law school. So I graduate law school, and instead of going and becoming a lawyer, I was like, I'm loving management, like I'm doing well, let's focus on that. So I kept managing artists. I eventually started doing A&R for a couple labels and distribution companies, and you know really just built a career in the music industry, and I did that for almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and then the pandemic happened, and suddenly, I at the time I was managing, I think, like 12 or so acts, a couple bands, a couple artists, and suddenly, my schedule went from being very, very full to very, very empty because it was the pandemic. And a lot of the bands had to stop playing. Obviously they had to stop touring, but some of them, got married and had kids and did this, and went back and worked day jobs. And I didn't know what was going to happen to my management company. And you know, in the years that I was doing management, I met a lot of music attorneys who, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody, but I felt like they weren't representing the artist the way that artists needed representation. I felt like they just weren't, they weren't committed to independent artists, and they didn't understand the needs of an independent artist versus, like, it's easy to represent a Taylor Swift or a Drake or
Oh, yeah.
whoever, but like representing an up and coming band, an up and coming artist, it's a lot tougher. And there's, specific things that they require that, music attorneys just don't normally, that's not really their purview. But being my background as a manager, as somebody that is, working day to day with artists, I felt like I had a grasp on that. So during the pandemic, I shifted gears. I studied for the bar exam, took it, started my law firm, and I haven't looked back, and since then I've just been representing musicians, artists, bands, labels,
Yeah.
whoever, and doing the thing,
Well, I think it's
so
kind of
that's,
great.
yeah.
It's kind of great that you had something to fall back to when, like, because COVID was, like, obviously not planned for.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think it was kind of like the great equalizer for a lot of people. Is like suddenly, um, everybody was just stuck at home. So like, how do you deal
Yeah.
with that, and you know, how do you continue, a career when, at the time, I mean, it was terrifying, right? Because like
Yeah.
we didn't know if the industry was going to continue in the way it is. We didn't know if live music was ever going to come back, and if shows and festivals. And now obviously hindsight's 2020, and we know that those things are back, and it's normal again. But at the time I didn't know, so I was like, well, if I can't be on the front lines with artists, then I'll be more behind the scenes and focus on rights and copyrights and music rights, and making sure that artists are getting all their royalties, and making sure that the recorded side of things is done properly, in addition to live music and everything. And that's kind of where I fell in.
So do you think from like maybe being like a having that experience as a manager and even as a musician yourself,
Yeah.
you probably understand a lot of the pitfalls versus like your run of the and I'm just ballparking a run of the mill music attorney who never had those experiences might give you a bit of a step up compared to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it gives me a totally different perspective on the industry, and you learn, you learn that the industry really is about relationships and being being somebody that people can go to and ask questions and work things through. Whereas like a lot of attorneys, the jokes about attorneys, like a lot of them are very, very adversarial, very like competitive and litigious. And they're not, at the end of the day, like I want to get deals done. Like I want artists to succeed. I want people to get money back in their own pockets. Like it's not about winning the case necessarily. It's about finding resolutions, and I think, a lot of attorneys go straight from law school into, and they kind of fall into music because that's the job that they got or whatever, or they, they do traffic accidents during the day and then at night they do music or whatever, but I'm a music attorney. Like this is what I do, this is what I love, and this is, my, my practice.
And your expertise too.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, for sure.
I can echo your sentiments. Like thinking about like, preparing for your musician to interview is a little bit different than a lawyer. And so like I didn't really have a catalog of yours to listen to, or
Yeah.
like I didn't have case law in front of me to review.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, like, what is my experience with attorneys? And I have two attorneys that I currently have. And up until like some issues I had, I felt maybe what most people would think, that attorneys are just these overpaid people trying to win cases, trying to make money. And if you do the right thing in life, you don't need an attorney because the right thing always prevails. And
Hmm.
then I quickly learned that that's not how life is. And I thankfully got turned on to an amazing attorney who changed my whole life. And like, Sophia didn't know this when she reached out to me, but I had actually looked at going to law school myself.
Oh, wow.
I had interviewed other attorneys as far as like, I have some friends whose wives are attorneys. And so I interviewed them as far as like what it would entail for me to go back to school. Um, I'm currently in the middle of some litigation on an employment matter. And that
Sure.
is what I started learning, that lawyers care more about law and being what is right, like you would
Yeah.
say, a resolution rather than like winning the case. And I can see now that I'm older and a little bit more wise and mature to things, how important that is. And I was thinking today, like how, especially like you said, the up and coming artists aren't like a Taylor Swift where they can dictate to what their parameters are. So I think it would be even more advantageous for a younger artist to have that backing, to
Hmm.
somebody to look out for them. And what a crucial need that is that you provide.
Yeah, and another thing is I always say like, yes, there are bad situations that people come to me with, and we have to work through that. But most of the time, I'm fortunate that like I'm the attorney you want to call, because if you're calling me, it's because you got a record deal offer or you got a publishing deal or a management or something's happening in your career that's taking you to the next level. And I'm just here to make sure that you get there and you don't get screwed in the process, you know?
Right. And
Yeah.
that's a very important part to this entire industry. And like you can see, because I always talk, like I've been interviewing a lot of older bands from the 70s and 80s too. And you can
Yeah.
see how the entire music industry has changed, even just financially from the 80s till now. So I imagine
Yeah.
the law and like the practices of the industry, even since COVID, has probably changed a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's constantly changing all the time, I mean, just the industry in general, but laws around the industry, like, I'm talking all the time now about AI, and how people are using AI to make music, and what's the legality of that, and how's that going to stand up long term, because right now it's legal to release AI music. There's no like, necessarily barriers around it, but that could change in 5 years or less. That could change with different court rulings, and then suddenly, the music that you release with AI, tools in it is not your copyright anymore. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to shake out, but that's just one example of things changing rapidly.
Yeah, I didn't even think of the AI portion of it. But like it got to
Yeah.
the point, like I get sent a lot of music and I get sent a lot of AI music now, and like I have to tell the like those companies like I refuse to even like endorse you because
Yeah.
like, there's enough artists out there struggling that like why I feel bad. I don't feel bad doing it. I take that back. I don't feel bad at all. But
No, yeah. That's my whole thing is like, AI, like, why are we using AI to create art? Like, we should be using AI to like do our taxes and do my laundry and stuff. That's what I want AI to do. I don't want AI to make art. I want people to make art, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So it's just crazy.
I
Yeah.
I have to give ChatGPT some credit because
Yeah.
I'm computer inept. So I only use AI to translate because like I get a lot of bands from across the world. And so
Sure.
like I don't speak Polish, so like I'll copy and paste it into ChatGPT. Or I'll ask ChatGPT like, "Hey, on a MacBook, how do you do this?"
Right.
And so like I think there is some benefits to AI, but I think the downsides are starting to come up a lot more prevalent than the positives.
Yeah. I mean, you look at I forget the name of the band, but there's like that AI band that like got really big on Spotify,
I
you
saw
know,
that.
and they were like the whole band, like the image, everything was all generated by AI. Like that's insane to me, you know?
Yeah. And what
Crazy.
really struck me is like you said rap and like I grew up like as a hip hop junkie. And so like Timbaland, you probably know Timbaland.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so like he like I think it was like 6 months ago he released a statement like he's starting an AI only like management producing or something.
Hmm.
And I remember I even messaged Timbaland, like, I'm sure he didn't read it. Who am I? But like I was like, Timbaland, I used to like you, man. Like you were good. Like,
Yeah.
why do you need to do this?
Yeah, no, that's wild to me, you know. And it's a big problem in rap, and in electronic music too, because it can be hard to tell. Like it's one thing if you're a, guitar bass, like, metal band or whatever, like you can kind of more easily tell if something's faked versus something real, but
Yeah.
with like hip hop, electronic music, pop music, it can be hard to tell because the music's already being created by computers mainly. So, you know, I don't know, maybe AI is slipping in more than we know. You know.
And then you throw like especially in hip hop, like sampling on top of the AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a younger guy I work with who listens to rap, and he always shows me these videos. It's like an Instagram account, and they'll take like a beat, like one of Kendrick Lamar's beats, and they'll break it down into like what 5 or 6 different samples it is. And
Hmm.
then you start looking like, wow, man, I think it's really cool that you pulled this from a cartoon and that from jazz. And I think
Yeah.
that's cool that Kendrick Lamar has that knowledge, or like even Q-Tip or the Beastie Boys have that musical knowledge that they can draw upon. Whereas it seems kind of unfair for a computer to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Like,
does. I agree with you there. Yeah.
and like
Yeah,
when
for sure.
like you read about like Q-Tip cutting tape and taping it together and
Right.
running it and
Yeah, no, that's no joke. Like that's a legitimate skill, just like playing guitar or playing drums,
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but yeah, a lot of people are using AI to kind of cut the line a bit, and that I don't think is cool, you know.
So what is
Yeah.
like what's your favorite part of music then? Like do you like working like the copyright side or the
Yeah, I mean, I like all aspects of it, but in particular, I like working specifically with songwriters and producers. So, I think the songwriters are usually the people that get cut out, you know,
yeah.
faster than everybody else because you know and again it's different like with metal or guitar based music or rock or whatever because typically the people that are performing the music are also writing the music, but when you get into pop and other genres, like there might be 4 or 5 songwriters on a song, but Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter is the one singing it, you know and those songwriters get lost in the shuffle, and their rights get taken away, their percentages get diluted, they end up getting screwed first, so I like being an advocate for songwriters, being an advocate for producers, and making sure that they're getting the cut that they're getting, on the other end, I also really like working with young new bands and putting together what's called a band agreement. So every band needs a band agreement. That's if you're a band listening to this, like please call me. Let's get a band agreement for your band because I'm sure you don't have one, but you absolutely need one because that's where you decide things like who owns the band name. What happens if a member leaves the band and what are their rights? What are the rest of the band's rights? What about assets for the band like the logo and other things like that. It's basically like an operating agreement like you'd have for a company, but
Yeah.
specifically for your band, you know. And most bands don't do this, and then something happens, somebody breaks, somebody leaves the band, they break up, they have a big hit song later, and then all hell breaks loose, or examples like, I always bring up Queensryche as an
Yeah.
example, because they very famously had that lawsuit with Jeff Tate where half the band was, fighting him over the name. And, you know, if they had had a band agreement that specified those parameters, they wouldn't have had a 2 year or 3 year lawsuit over it. And that's Queensryche. That's a pretty big band, but
Yeah.
imagine if you're a smaller band without those kinds of resources, to fight and go to court over these things, like you could end up with a huge mess of issues and, you know, people taking money, people stealing, percentages, it's just like I've I've run the gamut on issues that happens when there's no band agreement, So I like working with newer bands and kind of educating them on why they need this, helping them put it together, and making sure that they don't have issues down the line. That to me that's super rewarding because inevitably bands are going to break up. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no band is going to last forever. So, if you plan from the very beginning what's going to happen when that inevitably happens, you're going to be in much better shape.
Or even like, even while they're successful, you see how many like bands are together, but still arguing over percentage cuts, royalties, merch
Yeah.
cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean it's so much easier to get that stuff in writing early on when you're all friends and you're happy to be together than it is when you're on the road and you're struggling and you're fighting each other and all that, but yeah, it's a very very big thing. So, like I said, if you're in a band and you're watching this or you're listening to this, like, you know, please reach out. Like I will help you get this together.
And now that you say that, like, I never thought of like the legal ramifications, but like you started thinking like, okay, Megadeth, Metallica, like
Mm-hmm.
obviously that happened like 40 some years, probably 40 years ago.
Yeah.
They're still arguing over it. And
Yeah.
there has been no, like, as much as I love both bands, like it's kind of a detraction from both bands because you're sort of like, we're still dealing with this over 40 years. Like,
Yeah.
shut up, just put out good music.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's another good example of like, yeah, if they had, agreements early on, maybe the whole landscape of metal would be different right now.
Could you
So,
imagine like 40 years of Metallica with Dave Mustaine in it?
oh man, it'd be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. There
No,
would be
so
no like there would be no 72 seasons and I'd be so happy.
yeah, maybe there wouldn't have been a Saint Anger either. So
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't even like the Black Album. That was like the ruining for me.
yeah,
But if a
yeah.
young band is looking for representation from you and they're looking to set up an agreement, how does a band get a hold of you?
Oh man, I'm everywhere. All right. So, you can find me on my website, randyohedalaw.com. You can send a message to me through there, but I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on X, which makes me sound like I'm doing drugs, and I'm on, LinkedIn, like whatever. I'm on all the things. Like I'm terminally online, unfortunately, but you can find me. My username is real Randy Ojeda on every platform. So don't follow the fake Randy Ojeda. Follow the real Randy Ojeda.
Damn right. All those
Yeah.
contacts, I'm going to put everything in the description as long as I
Please.
remember. You keep me right.
I will. I will. I will bug you if I don't see links.
So
Yeah.
now with music, like I understand some law they have to practice per state. Like, are you
Hmm.
nationally or internationally? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, music is all the laws around music are federal law because we're talking copyrights and trademarks and these
Sure.
kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, I can work with people all over the country. Internationally, sometimes it gets a little tricky, but I have worked with international artists as well, particularly when they're trying to break into the US,
Okay.
So like, a band from Sweden, signing with a US based label or something like that, you
Sure,
know.
sure. Wait,
But yeah, it's a nationwide thing.
and the scary part of that is now though, like a lot of the bands, I'm getting all these emails, like the bands can't even like release their records here because of like tariffs now and
Yeah.
distribution deals and the whole government's changing and
Yeah, no, it's a really weird time for a lot of reasons. But
I
yeah.
work for the feds, so trust me, I get it.
I did not know that. Yeah, I gotta be careful what I say around this guy. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Trust me. They hate me and I hate them. And we are
Love
both
that.
well familiar where we stand.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
So,
But yeah, it's kind of like, you know, do you want the attorney who lives close by, or do you want the attorney that lives in the music world, and that's kind of the difference is, a contract from California is going to be just the same as a contract from Minnesota or whatever.
sure, sure.
So,
And like you said before, not that I'm selling you, but like you have that musical experience from not only the band standpoint, but the managerial standpoint. I realized last week I went to two shows last week. Curtis sent me to one. Thank you, Curtis.
shout
And
out Curtis C squared.
yeah, dude, they're great people, man.
Yeah,
Can't say enough positive stuff about them. But I
likewise.
realized last week about like I know a lot about music, the music side of it, and bands, but I don't understand the industry, the business side, the payment. I don't understand how like touring works.
Yeah.
There's a lot in the music industry that like is more than just writing a riff.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised, man. A lot of people that work in the industry also have no idea how the industry works. So
Yeah.
it's very, it's complicated, and there's a lot of different aspects to it, and that's why I really value my experience as a manager, because I think managers have the toughest job, because you basically have to know at least a little bit about everything to be a manager. It's not like you're focused on one specific area. You're wearing all the hats, just like artists are, these days too. But so it's easy to lose sight of things, and get lost in the world of music, because there's so many different branches. I mean, you're talking distribution and publishing and touring and all these different things, publicity. So I really value the experience that I've had, because it allows me to, look at that bigger picture, you know.
But that
So,
probably makes you like an even more, I want to say the word efficient, but like a more
yeah.
specialized attorney too for that need. So like
Yeah.
as like because I'm learning from law, like a speeding ticket isn't just a speeding ticket. There's a lot of variable factors that go in. So
Sure.
like if I'm coming to you with a band agreement, this four piece of heroin strung out metal dudes might be different than this three piece of businessy jazz dudes or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
And like
Yeah.
personalities themselves are just different. And as a manager, I'm learning sometimes you're doing like it's sort of like being like a mid-level manager because like you're taking it from the staff of your band and you're taking it from the promoters, the shows, the
Hmm.
venues, the so you're like kind of taking it on from all fronts. So
Yeah, you're that. I mean, that's your role, is as a manager, is like you're the liaison between the band and everybody else. So,
yeah. I always look back to like Gloria Cavalera from Sepultura and like
uh-huh.
the Cavaleras and she like was the manager, the wife, the parents. Like she has like I don't know, like 700 Cavalera bands, and like
Yeah.
she
Yeah. I feel
like
like they keep multiplying somehow. Yeah.
every band that comes out that kicks ass, they're like, yeah, there's like seven Cavaleras in it. And you're like, what? There's more of them?
Yeah.
But like, but like I just Curtis introduced me to Richie Cavalera from Insight, and like you're
Yeah.
like, man,
Great
that's
band.
another killer Cavalera band. And you look at her and you're like, man, to manage like an entire, like, for lack of a better term, a dynasty or an empire of metal,
Yeah.
like on her own without like any like mentors, like what a kick-ass woman. And like,
Absolutely. Yeah. Hell yeah. No,
So
and
like,
shout out to Insight. I'm seeing them live in like a month or so, and I can't wait. That record just slaps, man. It's one of my favorite
man,
records of the year.
I just saw them on Summer Slaughter tour and
Nice.
fuck, dude. They were the opening act and like as soon as they were done, I know Pantera and I love you Pantera, but they were saying they were the heaviest act of the year or heaviest tour of the year and I was like, "No, Summer Slaughter beat it between like Fugitive and Insight.
Yeah.
They rip, man."
No. That's yeah, I'm super looking forward to that tour.
Where are you
That's
seeing
awesome.
them at?
I think they're at the Orpheum here in Tampa. I'm
Okay.
based in Tampa, Florida.
Sure, sure.
So I think they're at the Orpheum, but I might be wrong. But yeah, no, I'll definitely be at that show. And, I love, Tampa's a great place to be if you like heavy music. I mean, we're the
Yeah.
capital of death metal, and there's like
Yeah.
so many great bands from here. There's a band I just recently got into called Cold Steel, that's
Okay.
from Tampa, Florida. And they have a record coming out later this year that I'm super hyped for, just kind of like an old school death metal type of vibe.
Okay.
And, yeah, I just love that. I love, I like being here. We had there's the shout out to the Tampa Museum of Metal. They do an exhibition a few times a year where they have like prop like not props but like memorabilia from like Cannibal Corpse and Obituary and Death and all these bands. And
Yeah.
it's just such a cool community. That I still feel like an outsider kind of looking in, but I appreciate everything that they do.
Yeah. I definitely gonna reach out to them. Like I didn't even know
Yeah.
there was a metal museum in Tampa.
There is. It's not like a permanent exhibit. It's like they set it up. Like I said, they do events and set it up for those events. But it's run by some great people, and a lot of the metal scene that's from Tampa is like super supportive of it. Especially all the old heads, more
Isn't
sound studios, all that stuff.
Yeah, Morbid Angel, all them guys.
Morbid Angel, yeah, they're involved. It's really cool.
I really like Obituary, and I'm like a huge animal lover, so I want to give a big shout out to the Tardis for helping them cats.
Yeah,
Dude, such great, great dudes, you know?
yeah. Totally. It's
Yeah.
like I always say that metalheads are like some of the nicest people in the world. Like I don't know if you ever met Corpse Grinder, from Cannibal Corpse, but one of the nicest guys I know, and he's like you'll see him like he's really into the claw machines, like getting the little stuffed animals from the claw machines, and then he will basically get every animal out of a claw machine. Like he's insane about it, and then he'll donate all those stuffed animals to children's hospitals and different organizations. And it's like the dude's name is Corpse Grinder, okay? Like, but he's such a sweetheart, such a good person that it's just, yeah, he needs
Except
another
he's a
nickname.
Baltimore Ravens fan, and I live in
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, yeah. I didn't know that part, but
We went to I went to Cannibal Corpse earlier this year. I want to say in April, and
uh
I actually had a couple, Erica and her husband got married in the Cannibal Corpse pit. And
wow.
yeah, like it was a really cool wedding, and I actually met him afterwards and interviewed him and stuff. Really cool couple, and it was like you saw the dudes from Cannibal Corpse being so like positive towards them. They signed their like marriage certificate and like autograph stuff for them, and you're like
So awesome.
big evil corpse grinder guy, you know,
Yeah.
the biggest
Yeah.
hearts.
Biggest hearts, yeah, and I found that that's pretty much the case with these metalheads. Like they seem so intimidating, but then you get to know these people, and they're like just the sweetest people.
And the same goes for Insight. Like they hung out afterwards at the merch booth, and like every fan was coming up. It was hugs. It was they signed everything. No issues. Like happy to be there. Like what
Yeah,
a positive environment.
yeah, I love seeing that.
And
Yeah,
like that takes me back to like getting back into law. Like as a fan, you always think every band is like that,
right.
but they're not. And
Not
so,
everybody's like that. No.
and so like what I'm finding is like the older I get, like you can't expect a band like they're good at playing music, just as you're good at law. Like I can't expect, well, you're different, but like I can't expect to you to pick up a guitar and shred it the hell out.
Yeah,
Just
I
that,
can't shred. No, no. I'm a bass player.
oh, these are just there for show, man. I make noise at night, but I suck, man.
Yeah,
But I have fun. And so like you look at it and you're like, these are musicians who are like good at their craft, good at writing songs. So for them to navigate the business world, like that's not their expertise, and that's why somebody like you is so important in their corner, alongside good
exactly.
management, good PR.
Yeah, it really takes a village, like it takes a lot of people to really, make it work for artists, especially today, because it's like, like I said, I'm terminally online, but like artists really have to be terminally online. Like you constantly need to be sharing things and content and behind the scenes, and that's on top of actually making the music and touring and doing all that. You have to also be an influencer basically. So it's tough out there. It's tough for artists. It's a hard time to grow, and streams don't pay very much. So get out there and support and go to shows and buy merch. That's the
Yeah.
best thing you could do.
I got
So
stacks of records. Half of them I haven't even opened yet because I
yeah.
stream so much.
I,
I
I've
bought,
I've yeah, I'm in the same boat. I have so many records that my wife has actually put a ban on me like getting records, and it sucks because people want to give me records like for free because they respect what I do, and
sure.
I sometimes I have to be like, I can't put it on the shelf, I can't bring home another one.
Today was so my wife was all pissed because I went to like I scheduled like I don't know 162 shows in September. So she was
Jeez,
like, no more shows. So I'm like, all right. And then she was like, I brought home a bunch of records last week. So she was like, no more records. So I was like, all right. And then I went on Bandcamp Friday today and I saw like a bunch of bundles from the Friendship Commanders and I was like, oh man, I gotta buy that.
yeah.
So I ordered that and then I bought more tickets today. So like, do you do divorces too? Because
I do not, but I know somebody who can help you out if that's the case.
no, me and
If
my wife get along great. We always teach
Yeah, yeah.
each other, but
No, same. My wife's amazing. She's super supportive of what I
yeah,
do, and she's I'm at shows like I go to like 3 to 4 shows a week,
yeah,
and she's never complained. She's just she go do your thing. Every now and then she'll join me on at a show if it's somebody she likes, but you know I shout out to Liz, my wife.
yeah. My wife doesn't want to shout out. She doesn't even want to be associated with me anymore. We've been together like, I don't know, 21 years. I think she's
Yeah.
tired of me. It's like a life sentence, you know?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that.
She's great though. Without her, like, I couldn't make it in life. Like, it's like you. I
Yeah.
need a village. I got two daughters who take care of me too. Like, I'm like the
Yeah.
village idiot that they got to take care of, you know?
Yeah, sometimes it feels that way, right?
But it
Yeah.
works, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
They're happy. It's all that matters.
Right on, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to put all your contact information in the description so bands can reach out.
Yeah, please.
I don't know what else to say that you need to like umbrella.
No, no, I mean, I think it was fun hanging out with you, Mike, and chatting and definitely like anytime if you want me back, I'm happy to come on and talk music and hang out whenever.
I think we should do
So,
this like once every like 6 months or a year because like
yeah, sure.
it has to be that like I've seen how much it's changed in like what 7 months and like it's mind blowing. So I can only
Yeah.
imagine like with like I know there's like the monopoly issue with Ticketmaster going its way through
Hmm.
courts and so many other like agencies that had hands into like legal matters being dissolved or a
Yeah.
lot's changing. And I think,
Lots changing.
your industry and what you represent changes hourly, if not daily.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always something going on. It's never boring. I
Yeah.
can say that. It's you know, even drilling into paperwork and doing all that, it's not boring. Like there's always something happening. So,
Uh, I read, I get like 2 to 3,000 page manuals I have to read through for legal referencing, and
hmm
I get it. It's a lot of
yeah.
work, and lawyers are well worth their weight in gold. My attorney,
Yeah.
Christian Bagan, I love you, has changed my entire outlook on the whole legal process in America. And
Glad
you
to
guys
hear
are
it.
much needed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear that. And, I always, I always shout out good attorneys because there are a lot of bad ones out there too that are, you know, taking advantage of people and not doing the right thing. But people that are doing the right thing and keeping it 100, that's what's up.
And as expensive as he is, like he's cut me so many breaks, such a great attorney. So for young bands who feel like they are getting taken advantage of, or if they haven't gotten taken advantage of yet, maybe they should be reaching out to you now to
Yeah.
get those agreements and everything in place so that they can succeed properly.
Yeah. So, I actually offer free 15-minute consultations. So, if you're a band and you just want to talk and just kind of see where you're at, maybe you're not ready to hire me yet, but you just kind of want to know what the next steps could be, reach out to me, book a free consult. Let's talk for a few minutes. And, you never know what'll come from it.
Yeah, and like I keep thinking about it now, like for a band that is always trying to get successful, it's almost like shooting yourself in the foot if you get successful and then have to come back
Yes. Yep.
as emotions, feelings, everything has changed. I
Yeah.
I really
And,
see that now.
and you could just miss out on, like, let's say you do have a song that winds up in a video game or something, and then if you don't have your rights properly allocated, like you could miss out on so much potential revenue and potential exposure just because you didn't have things set up properly before your big break. You never know when that break's going to happen. That's what I always tell bands. It just takes one song, one situation, one opportunity to change your whole career. So get things set up before that happens.
But you might not ever have that big break if the band doesn't make it to that point because they don't have shit together.
Also true. Also true. So there's a lot of ways to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, in a time that's changing so much with like bands dissolving, bands swapping, super groups being formed, there's a
Hmm.
lot of moving parts that bands need representation for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
Cool.
I'm getting the message that we're running out of time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
But
about that time.
I had a great time talking to you, man. I really did.
Yeah. Likewise. It was really, really great to meet you. And if you want me back, I'm available. I'd love to join you anytime.
Yeah, I'll leave it in you. I get drilled down into like just album after album after album. So please, if you don't hear from me in a while, reach out. I definitely
No
want to do
worries.
this again.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.